Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Beer Reviews. Once again, coming at you, and I've been counting down the 12 bottles I got from Jens from Germany. You will know that the last bottle that we have in our hands is an exceptionally special one. Rated by many people one of the best beers in the entire world. Certainly one of the hardest beers to ever get your hands on. This is Westvleteren 12. You can't tell by the bottle. You cannot tell by the bottle alone, apart from this lonely little ring around the outside that says Trappist Beer, and more importantly, if I hold it the right way up, the little yellow cap on the top with a nice best before date, and also telling you that this is Westvleteren 12. Now this one is a year old. It's dated the 13th of the 12th, 2015 as best before date, and they give 3-year best before dates on their beers. Obviously this is bottle conditioned and it is alive and will age as long as you want it to. I have to say 1,000 thanks to Jens for getting me this, because this is so difficult to get your hands on. To be able to get your hands on this, you have to call up the Abbey, St. Sixtus of Westvleteren, I believe is the name of the Abbey, on their very dodgy phone line, as they say on their own website. You have to call ahead and place an order, and then you have to go pick up your order. I think it's something like 6 months later, and you can only get, or at least in 2009 you can only get 1 case of 24, I want to say. Now you can only get 2, something of the sort, so it's a very limited amount you can get, and obviously you pretty much have to live in Belgium to be able to get your hands on this stuff, or know someone who'll be able to get you it, and hence why it's so difficult to get your hands on. Now, I was having a really interesting conversation. The last review you might have seen was the one where I went to Friends of Ham and I saw my friend's beer on the bar, their espresso stout. And we'd been having a really good conversation the night before about reviewing and about flavours and about taste and about hype and about pretense. And it was interesting because I do sit in front of the camera and I'll try a beer, and I desperately try to be as impartial as physically possible about every beer that I try, no matter what name, whether it's my favourite brewery, whatever. I will always try and be totally honest with my thoughts of the beer, and also, I do a bit of research sometimes behind the beers and try and work out a little bit of interesting facts here or there. Obviously, I've looked up about the Westvleteren, how many you can get and things like that. Speaking of which as well, €40 for a case, which is ridiculously cheap for this beer, for a super rare beer that everyone rates about. It's a really cheap beer to get as well. But that's an aside. Obviously when it comes to a beer like this, the concept of best beer in the world, I say it all the time when I get a beer that I really like and I give it a 9.5, I'll say nothing's ever going to be a perfect 10. And I'm very much of that ilk. The concept of the perfect beer, it is just that, it's a concept. How could you have a perfect beer? This beer is an Abbott style beer, a quadruple if you want to call it that. And it is a specific style of beer that fits into this certain niche. It's the strongest alcohol, in terms of alcohol, beer that a Trappist brewery will make, usually reserved for the Abbott, hence the name Abbott, or quadruple if you want to call it that, because it'll go a single, double, triple, quadruple. So the flavours in this are going to be extremely complex because of the high elevated ABV, which it kicks in at 10.2, I believe, in this batch. Yep, 10.2%. On top of that, so it's got the alcohol in to play in its favour. It's got a nice hefty weight of alcohol behind it to play all its flavours off. On top of that is bottle condition, so the longer I leave this bottle, the more the flavours are going to develop. So whether I try this completely brand new fresh, if I tried it on the 14th, say, when I picked it up, won't be the 14th, but the first day I picked it up, I cracked a bottle open and tried it, then continuously tried all different 23, 24 bottles over the course of the next several years, the flavour would evolve and change immensely. That the same goes for many other beer styles as well. So let's go heady topper, double IPA. You need to drink it as physically fresh as possible. The alchemists make sure of that by pretty much selling it exclusively in the Prohibition Pig, their micro, not their micropub, their bar, and in the very, very small catchment area around their brew house. So, you know, if you have that one slightly older than you perhaps should have it, the flavours just aren't going to be as amazing and as powerful and as good as they can be. So there is a lot to play into what the best beer is. It's a hard concept to kind of play on. So the fact that people consider this one of the best beers in the world, it's very difficult for me to say that. You know, I do rate beers, and I'll say whether I like them or dislike them, and I try and put like a nominal scale against the beers that I try. But having this conversation with my friend Chris and talking about reviewing, it really kind of made me think. And I thought, God, I've got this bottle that's been kindly gifted to me, and I want to do the best possible job of reviewing this beer. And I was being kind of nervous about trying it because I almost don't want to be disappointed by it, and I almost don't want to disappoint other people by crushing their hopes and dreams that this beer is amazing. But I'm sure it is in its own respect. And having said that, I don't just want to give it a straight 9.5 or potentially higher if it's that brilliant, without really trying to justify my feelings behind it. So that's why it's been put off just a little bit longer than I kind of wanted it, and also the fact that I would really like to just keep this bottle for like the next 70 years and then crack it open and just try it when it's really aged. But then I thought, no, I've got to remove that from my mindset. You know, if I want to be impartial about the beer, yes, this is Westvleteren 12, yes, this is meant to be one of the best beers in the world, but I do it with every other beer without any or too much hassle at all. So the only way you've got to do this is you've got to go into it, and I just have to be as impartial as I can be. So yeah, just a little psychoanalysis of doing beer reviews. Maybe I'm just going into it too much and actually just crack open a beer and give it a shot, give it a try to what I'm sure is going to be an extremely enjoyable beer. So yeah, that's just a little background on what I was thinking. So hey ho, let's get into it. Let's try it. Let's crack the top. Now I know, because it's bottle condition, this is most likely going to spray everywhere if I'm not careful. But it's alright, crack the top. Nice amount of smoke coming off the top of it as well. I also don't have one of their actual Westvleteren glasses, so I'm just using my big brandy snifter. We'll give it as much attention as we can. And I also know this is going to probably cause a massive head, which is cool. Oh, look at the size of it. Isn't that exciting? Right. Give it plenty of room to breathe anyway. So, on first look, this is a very, very deep chestnut brown. There is a nice bit of light coming through the sides bit, almost gives it kind of reddish kind of tinge to it, reddish brown tweak and tinge, and there's like an off-white khaki head going on as well. Humongous amounts of super fine lovely bubbles kind of mixed in with Swiss cheese-esque bubbles towards the top of the head, lacing quite well on the side of the glass as well, sticking like glue to the sides. You can see the way, like if I tilt the glass all the way around, the head is pretty much staying where it was. It is pretty to look at. It's really pretty to look at, I have to say that. It is also very reminiscent of other beers. I've had Trappish, Rochefort 10 as well, and I've also had St Bernardus Abt or St Bernardus 12 as well. So I have had a few experiences with other quadruple or Abt style beers before. So it's very reminiscent of all the beers in its style. So let's get a nose in, give it a good smell. Oh, this one is particularly yeasty. There is like it's super Belgian yeast smells on this. Almost kind of like a bread yeast smell too. Yeah, it could almost be like you've just needed wet dough. And then there's a twinge of alcohol on the nose as well, that little bit of warmth and burn right in the back of the nose actually. But I must say this one smells a lot more bread yeasty than I was expecting it to be. And I mean at 10.2%? 10.2% alcohol, I was expecting to be able to smell quite a bit of it, so it's got a nice boozy, bready sort of smell to it. There's spice as well. just a little bit. But dominating smell, dominating aroma for me is bread. But hey, oh, that's quite cool. Right, I'm just going to try and pour out the rest of this because I do like my beers with yeast from the bottom in. There we go. Cool, awesome. Right, we've had an aroma. We've had a look at what it looks like. Now let's get into it, everyone. Cheers. Oh wow. Do you know what? Hands down, actually, that mouthfeel is like super sleek. God, the mouthfeel alone is like buttery smooth. That's really amazing. Oh. Right, I'm gonna go right ahead and say it. Actually, that's absolutely amazing. This is absolutely amazing. It really is. There is like dark candied sugar flavors. There's plums. There's raisins. There's dates. Um, there's everything in this. There is everything. It's almost like a woody barrel aged flavour too, almost like rum, almost like a dark spiced rum. There is Belgian yeast in abundance. There's a little bit of that bready flavour, bready aroma coming through as flavour as well. Like I said, the mouthfeel on this is like bliss. There is like the finest carbonation, smoothest bubbles rinsing across the tongue. There's like and it just adds in this chunky, really nice and thick mouthfeel, and it's like drinking. God, what is it like drinking? I guess it's like drinking. It's almost got champagne-esque carbonation, but with like the texture of golden syrup. It's so lovely and thick. And there's barely a hint of booze at all, actually. This would probably, I'd market this under Bear's Dangerous Beers section. The beers that do not taste their ABV. This is 10.2, so after a couple of these, I would be an extremely drunk bear, and I'd probably have to go into hibernation for most of the winter. But I could spend an entire night on this. I made sure that I kept this quite nice and warm. I took it out of my garage, which is nice and cool, where I keep most of my beers, to try and let it warm up a bit to get some of the complex flavours and let it blossom a bit. And there's just such a level of complexity. I'm really glad I warmed it up because I actually think this is quite a delicate beer. The flavours are all there, and there's so much complexity to it. There's so many different like zinging fruit flavours. In fact, it's pretty fruity. If anything else, the esters from the Belgian yeast, which I believe is a Westmalle yeast, if I remember rightly from the top of my head, mixed in with the dark malts that they're using, you get a lovely fruity but particularly stone fruit flavour, but like several different varieties of it, different levels of sweetness, and I feel like they could be lost so easily because they seem so delicate, and I'd lose like one or two of those flavours, and something would become too much would dominate the palate too much. And I can see how well this beer would age. Only with age would those flavours meld just that little bit more, and would just create even a more complex palate. And I'm sure the carbonation and the mouthfeel would gain in abundance from that too. This is relatively fresh in terms of how long I know people have aged this. I've seen bottles of this going online from 1995 when it was a 9 point something percent beer in I think it was actually 9%. And you can imagine over the years that sitting and just aging, and hopefully they've aged it well in a proper cellar and or very well temperature controlled environment. I'd love to be able to try one of those and just feel how melting it is. Because what what I quite like, what I'm really enjoying about this, what I really am is, I could easily grab an Imperial Stout, pour it right now and drink it, and the flavours will be so, they would be so kick-ass, they would be domineering, they would be so, not overpowering, but they'll be so powerful on my senses and on my palate that I couldn't fail but to love it. Well, with this beer, there's just such a level of complexity and delicacy. It's almost like I've had to compare it to like almost like rose water. You know, it's such a delicate flavour that could be lost. This beer is like something that if not treated well, if not looked after, if not savoured, if not thought of, it could lose so much of its character. It's like a delicate flower, it really is. And to be so delicate, yet to be so alcoholic and to have so much complexity to it, it is truly mind blowing and baffling. Uh, you see, I was so nervous about trying this because I really didn't want to A, not like it, B, do something wrong or not review it correctly and fumble and mess around and see I wanted to age it. I really, really would love to have aged this. But I think it's fair that I got sent this as a gift, and I know Jens will want to see it, and I know I could keep it for years, but it's such an exciting beer to have. Having it sit in my garage and just looking at it every single day. I want to get my hands on it now. I have my entire life to be able to go and buy a bottle of this or find one online and buy it and age it for as long as I physically want. So I'm considering this my first delve of hopefully very many into a beer that is seen by hundreds and hundreds of people. Go and rate beer, go on Beer Advocate, you'll see thousands of people singing this beer's praises. And I don't just want to be a voice joining in with that crowd, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to be, because the hype behind this beer is really, it's probably well founded. Like I said, I have tried Rochefort 10, which is their Abt or quadruple beer, and it is a lot more harsh. The flavours are probably more domineering and probably more present on the palate, and probably will grab your attention more than maybe this beer. But like I said, what I'm really loving about this beer is its delicacy. It's so surprising, actually, so surprising. And there's just a nice, delicate. Everything is just so wonderfully balanced. So wonderfully balanced. Even that bitterness is just perfect, because I am still getting flavour. I'm still getting flavour, and in about 2 minutes' time, I'm still going to taste this beautiful, gentle, fruity, Belgian yeasty, bready, slightly dry on the palate too, but with the sweetness as well, if that's possible. It's dry on the back of my tongue, yet it's warm and sweet on the front of my tongue. And the mouthfeel is superb. It really, really is. This leads me back to that initial little conversation about reviewing beers then. Is this beer the best beer in the entire world? No. There is no such thing. There isn't. And that's my personal decision on it. There was no way I could justify saying this is the best beer in the world compared to different beers. I mentioned Imperial Stout and how it'll grab your tongue and it'll mash around your mouth and it'll leave you lying on the floor panting, going, that was amazing. That sounded quite sexual, but oh well. But you couldn't compare that to this. This is different. This is on a different end of the beer spectrum, and the same with the double IPA, the same with a fantastic standard IPA, the same with the perfectly balanced and drinkable 3.8% English Best Bitter, the same with the cleanest, the crispest, the grassiest, the most floral Pilsner. There's no such thing. This might be a defining beer of the Belgian Abt style, and it's fantastic because of that. And it is an absolute through and through 9.5. And the best recommendation I could ever give you is to try and get your hands on this. Please go on, please try and find this beer, because it will satisfy you so much. It really will. There is no such thing as the best beer in the world, because you can't justify. The flavours in this are meant to be what a double IPA has, and a double IPA isn't meant to be as delicate and complex as this, and they just can't be compared. Just can't be. But this is still such a fantastic beer, and I'm unbelievably glad that I've managed to get my little mitts on it. It makes me extremely happy to have tried it. I'm glad I haven't been disappointed. I have a Nonya U triple waiting for me as well that I wanted to review on, another Belgian beer style, and you'll see how different that probably is from this. Nonya, by the way, are Norwegian, so it's the Norwegians' take on a Belgian beer. But what I want to do now is I want to go away and grab a few of the other quads. Not almost to do a comparison, but almost talk about the differences perhaps, and you can see why perhaps I'm raving so much about this beer right now. But there you go. This is another 9.5. This is a defining beer of perhaps Belgian beers in general, but most certainly of high strength Trappist beers. This is above and beyond. The rarity makes it a pain in the backside to get hold of, admittedly, but if you can find a friend who can help you get your hands on some, then even better. Thank you, Jens, once again. But yeah, go out, try and find this beer whatever you can. Please do. It is magnificent. It is absolutely magnificent. So there you go. I have waffled for far too long. This is brilliant, and this is the final beer from Jens beer mail. So I guess the last word on this is another thank you once again to Jens. This has been an amazing journey. Thank you for all the amazing German craft beer that you just don't get to see unless you are actually from Germany, and vice versa. There are many English beers that you won't be able to find outside of England. I'm going to put together a package for Jens from England, specifically from Yorkshire, hopefully, that'll show him and guide him around the area that I live in, some of the best beers from where I'm from. And I hope that can be the best repayment for one of the best presents I've ever received. So once again, thank you, and until the next beer review, I'm going to sit and be extremely happy. Cheers.